Good afternoon. My name is Eva Bagg. I'm Superintendent President of Barstow Community College, and it is my distinct pleasure to kick off this inaugural event sponsored by our Barstow College Foundation. The foundation was established in 1981, a little more than 20 years after our college, a public institution that awards associate degrees and certificates in a variety of disciplines, first opened its doors to students in the Barstow and surrounding areas of the high desert region in California. The foundation is run by a volunteer board of directors, a group of individuals who are passionate about higher education and dedicated to making a difference in the lives of students and our community. The foundation facilitates gifts and raises charitable contributions through fundraising events and initiatives to provide scholarship funds that assist students in realizing their goal of higher education and in turning their dreams into reality. At the time the college was celebrating its 60th year of serving students, the foundation, while taking stock of the history of the institution and its many, many diverse graduates over the years, and in noticing the amazing accomplishments of so many Barstow residents who launched their educational and career lives at the college, they decided to establish an Exceptional Alumni Award to highlight for the college and the community what homegrown successes look like in the world beyond our small town. The foundation directors set out criteria for identifying which alumni would be considered for the great honor of being an exceptional alum. They considered accomplishments in education, teaching, military service, business success, service to community, philanthropy, impact at local, state, national, and global levels. And based on these criteria, the first alum unanimously chosen to be honored as the inaugural recipient of the Exceptional Alumni Award is Mr. Michael Ogeen. Plans were underway in fall of 2019 to celebrate Mr. Ogeen at the Barstow Community College's beautiful Performing Arts Center. But then COVID swept the country and locked down the school, and the foundation had to postpone the gala celebration. As we all know, the pandemic has loomed longer than anyone initially expected. And rather than delay the celebration any longer, the foundation decided to conduct the ceremony virtually. So here we are today, excited to introduce the inaugural winner of this prestigious award and to provide current BCC students the opportunity to directly, albeit remotely, ask him some questions. I'd like to first tell you a bit about Michael's background. Michael grew up in Barstow with his parents and 7 brothers and sisters. He was a sports fanatic from moment one and would eventually wind up playing basketball and running cross country at Barstow High School. He attended and graduated from Barstow Community College with an associate's degree and later transferred to San Diego State University, where he graduated with a degree in journalism. He quickly began to work in the public relations field and in 1992 opened his own PR agency. 2022 celebrates his 30th year of running Havas Formula. His company, Havas Formula, has won countless PR awards and now boasts nearly 200 employees. The agency has grown to be one of the top 50 largest PR firms in the country, with offices in San Diego, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Chicago, and Denver. And I must say that despite these significant accomplishments, when I first called Michael to inform him that he was the foundation's first exceptional alumni to be recognized, he was amazingly warm, humble, and down to earth when I spoke to him. And today, finally, Michael, and not quite in the manner that I had hoped we could honor you, I would like to present to you this beautiful blown glass sculpture and congratulate you on behalf of Barstow College and the Barstow College Foundation as our first exceptional alumni.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, honestly amazing. I'm humbled. I should, I mean, I think I should be giving you a gift. I feel like if I hadn't gone to Barstow College, I don't know that I would have made it this far. And so I feel, absolutely humbled that that you bestowed this really great honor on me. I had a great experience at Barstow College, and I think it's for a small community like Barstow to have a college like the school there. I think it's just a benefit that really not enough people take advantage of, and I'm honored and I'm humbled and I'm every other thing that you could say. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'm hopeful that others in the community really take advantage of the really the great educational academic opportunities that exist at Barstow.
Well, thank you, Michael. I'm sure you're going to be quite an inspiration to a number of our students. So we're really happy to have you here. And now, Michael, we have a little surprise arranged for you as part of our celebration today. I don't know when you last spoke, but at this time, I would like to bring in your longtime friend from Barstow to share some memories of your times together here. So
are these
welcome.
PG? Are these PG?
Welcome. Welcome, Rudy Bryan. I think he's coming into the room now.
Hey, finally there, technology.
There he is.
Hi,
Welcome,
Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Rude. How are you, buddy?
Very good, very good. Okay, I got some spiel to talk about right here. Again, for those who don't know me, my name is Rudy Bryan, and a good friend of Mike's, and it's been a few years being friends. And second of all, I would like to thank Dr. Bag, the foundation, and the Yogin family for allowing me to talk today. I certainly feel it's a privilege and honor to be here today talking about Mike. Later, you'll hear about Mike's college days and business success, and I will talk about Mike's friendship and the kind and caring person he's been through all these years. I'll start by addressing our Barstow friendship connection. We're Barstow boys. You know, I was born in Lenwood, graduated from Barstow High School in 1974, then eventually graduated from the University of Oregon in 1979, came back home and was director of the Barstow YMCA, and there'll be a connection with the YMCA later on in my spiel here or there. I met Mike around 1982. He was working at Horizon Sporting Goods store. We created a friendship that was based on sports. I mean, I think we like playing sports, talking sports, watching sports, whatever it may be. We did a few other things, but that's for another day. We'll talk about that on another day there. But our first trip, we went to Tempe, Arizona to watch the Oregon Ducks play Arizona State in football. It was also a trip that Mark Hedberg, a great friend, a good friend of ours, and Ray Sanchez, my roommate, went with us as well. It was a blast, and it included some craziness, but again, that craziness is for another day. Now about the Sharks. With Mike leading the way, he and his friends started playing slow pitch softball and created the softball team called the Sharks. The Sharks are a group of our friends that had as much fun hanging out as they did playing ball. And to this day, we still have a good time when we get together. As I previously mentioned, I was the YMCA director, and the YMCA sponsored the Up With People program for a couple of years when they performed at the Barstow Community College. Up With People is a huge touring musical group of young people that promotes international peace through music that Mike eventually joined. But prior to joining, a few of the young leaders would come early to help with preparation for the show and work with me. Mike always wanted to help by offering to escort the prettiest girls in the group. You know, always a team player like that. You know?
I was a team guy, Rudy. I was a team guy.
Mike was captivated by Up With People, and it started him in the next direction in his life. He was driven to join the group, and it had a huge impact in his life. Mike also has a huge heart. And an example is he still remembers the night after a City League basketball game that I told him my girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife, was pregnant and I was going to be a father. Recently, he remembered that moment like it was yesterday, and it occurred almost 35 years ago.
And I think worth noting about that is we had just finished a basketball game at Barstow Community College, and we were sitting in the parking lot at BCC.
Yeah, at BCC, yes, we were. Yeah, quite a moment. I still remember it. Another example of Mike's kindness, our oldest son Marcus played football for UNLV, and the Rebels were playing San Diego State University Mike's alma mater in San Diego. After the game, Mike wanted Marcus to stick around and hang out with us and have some fun. So Mike eventually flew Marcus home the very next day. It's just one of those kind things he would do for us. A couple of years later, our younger son, Brandon, was going to attend Grossmont Community College near San Diego, and he was going to play football. Mike insisted that Brandon live with him and his family in San Diego and work for him that summer while getting ready for the football season. Those are the moments of our family's life that Peggy and I will cherish for the rest of our lives. I know that he has helped high school students, high school athletes to get to college by supporting these college athletes in their decision-making about what college to attend. I thought that was one of those coolest things I had heard that he was trying to do. He just did that recently. He's also invited many of us Old Shark gang and other friends to be part of his various celebration of business success. And then here's our final example of Mike's kindness is he took the time to set up a celebration of life for a longtime neighborhood friend, Ricky Lucero, and brought the friends together in Dallas, Texas. With his crazy busy schedule, Mike pulled it off without a hitch. I've always been intrigued with Mike's ability to have a tremendously successful professional career, but also at the same time, be an awesome family man and more so an awesome father. He's also found time for his friends, whether it be his Sharks or his college fraternity bros or his up with people friends. Mike has kept us in his life. Business success and joy for life don't always add up, but for Mike, he has made it happen. So from all the Sharks, congratulations, Mike, on your successful career and being honored by the Barstow Community College Foundation. And thanks for the friendship through all the years. We're proud of you.
Wow. Love you, buddy.
Love you.
Thank you.
Rudy, thank you for that very moving tribute. Really appreciated that. Now, next, to provide another unique perspective on our award recipient, I would like to introduce Michael's brother, John Olguin, who will facilitate a short question and answer with Michael so people can learn a bit more about his background growing up in Barstow. John.
You're on mute, John. You're on mute.
First, I wanted to thank you, Dr. Bagg, for allowing me to be here, and I'm really happy to be able to represent our family and be able to let people know a little bit more about Michael than maybe what you might read in the bio. And I have to say that it's Michael and I, it's interesting to be able to be in a big family where I have 7 best friends. But for Michael and I, we have always connected similar to Rudy. We were always close because we were really into sports. And so he's always been, I mean, all the way to this day, he's always been my hero. And the great thing about him is that everything that he might have felt that he didn't learn, he tried to make sure that I did. And a lot of, I think a lot of the successes that I've been able to achieve sit right on the doorstep of Michael. And over the years, he's given me some unbelievable advice. I mean, everything from the start. I mean, Michael was finishing high school, had just finished high school when I was starting. And so he had given me a ton of advice about making sure you're involved and making sure that you get good grades, and you got to start high school with a purpose, and the purpose is to go to college and all of these things. And
but to be clear, the bar was not that high.
Well, but I'll tell you, one of the other funny things that he had told me back then too is he said, and John, when you get to high school, you've got to play football. And you know, in that split second that he told me that, I was thinking a lot about, well, he must mean because of the discipline it teaches you and the leadership and the hard work that you need in order to play football. But I asked him, I said, Michael, why do you think that I need to play football? And he said, oh, because girls love football players. So he's given me great advice all throughout. But Michael, I want to turn this back really to you, which is where it should be. And let's just start at the beginning. Obvious. You grew up in a small town, Barstow. Yep. Lots of brothers and sisters, obviously, great parents. Just talk about growing up in a small town and what it was like for you.
You know, it's interesting. I have a lot of friends who have, over the course of my life, that are highly educated. And I have these three friends of mine who I run with for probably 20 years. Every Saturday morning, we all run. We're all Mexican American. And we have these conversations, philosophical conversations about how did we, get out of a small town and survive. And one of those friends actually grew up in Barstow as well. And the other two are, actually originally from Mexico. But we talk about that. And I think the interesting thing about it is I think that you have to have a little bit of opportunity. You have to have a little bit of luck. And I think those things kind of play in towards each other. I think when growing up in Barstow is an interesting thing. I don't think, and John, you'll agree with this, I don't think we knew anybody in Barstow other than a school teacher who had a college degree. I can't remember anybody in our lives, at church, in school, anybody other than a school teacher who had a college degree. So when you don't know what's out there, it's hard to aspire to something. And I think growing up in a small town like that, there's limitations. But I think those limitations can only keep you back if you don't have an element of curiosity. And I think that I've always been curious. I always want to know what else is going on out in the world. And I think that curiosity, while they say it kills the cat, I believe it actually fuels the cat. I believe that that's where the opportunity lies. And I've never feared leaving Barstow, even though as a kid, as you'll remember, I didn't get on a plane until I went into up with people. I think it's 19 or 20, first time I ever rode on a plane. So, to think about those kind of narrow scenarios that we lived in, it's frankly, I think a little bit shocking, a little bit exciting at the same time. But I think that everybody is really limited by how much they're willing to be, feel comfortable being uncomfortable, because some things make you feel uncomfortable.
Sure. So how about, what role did a mother and father play that really weren't into college? They weren't, I don't think, pushing us to go to college by any stretch of the imagination. But what was the role though that they did play though?
It's interesting. I would say to you, and I 100% would agree with this, is because our parents never even graduated from high school, for them to think beyond high school was beyond them. And John, you and I talk about this all the time. Mom and dad used to tell us that college was for rich people. We were by no means rich. And so with that sort of a perspective, you never really think about attaining something beyond just graduating. But I think that what mom and dad did, and she instilled it to you and me and to all of our brothers and sisters, was work really hard. Like, just because every day you have to work really hard to get good grades, because you need to get good grades to get out of high school, graduate, to get a good job. And that was just a mentality. It wasn't necessarily about being aspirational and like, I want to, change the world. It was more like that was the right thing to do. And I think that really sort of played out in our lives. I can remember the one piece of advice that dad gave me when I opened up the company. And Dr. Bag, you mentioned 30 years. Yes, it has been 30 years. In fact, this past month, we celebrated our 30th anniversary. And, when I told my dad that I was going to go out, leave my full-time paid job, salary job, doing really well in Los Angeles to open my agency, he said, "What, are you crazy? Like, who does that? Like, you're nuts." And the only advice he gave me, which I think was just so profound, and I use it all the time, and I think it's worked very well for me, is he said, "Work hard and treat people fairly." Simple, right? It's very simple premise. But if you think about it, at the depth of a long-term relationship with people who work with you, it has a lot of merit in it. And it wasn't, he was never an entrepreneur. He never did he worked the same company his whole life. So, it's a very simple, but a very powerful thought.
So taking all of that, this very close family unit, parents who were very loving and supportive, you go through high school and you're starting in high school. What's your direction, if any, while you're in high school, and especially as you get to the end of your high school career? What's going through your mind then? Like, what am I going to do? And was there any fear? Or were you just like by the seat of your pants, or what? What were you thinking?
Mostly the latter. It's interesting. I because I did what I did over time, I was able to guide you into what you should do, because I didn't do it. So, it's kind of a little bit of that. But like I hung out with a lot of the persons in high school who were very academically driven, but I really wasn't. I was, thought of myself as an athlete and a socialite. I didn't really care much about the academic side of it. And as you'll remember, Mr. Wilmot giving you great advice about me. So I never really thought about college. I didn't know it was attainable. And then when I was in my last semester of senior year, two of my friends who also were just like me, were all like mediocre athletes that said, now what? We kind of said, well, let's go to College of the Canyons. It's a junior college. Let's do that. And that was all of a sudden became our idea that never materialized. And at that point is when I said, what the heck am I going to do? And so, it is interesting if you don't, what's different today, what's different with my kids, with your kids, John, and I know it was with yours, Ruth, is that you start planting the seed. And I believe that we live in a conditioned society, right? The more you set an expectations for your kids, the greater likelihood is that your kids are going to attain what you've conditioned them to expect. And I think if you never set an expectation, they never deliver because there was never a goal to start with. And I believe that that's something that, I started to realize with my kids, I need to do that earlier because it didn't happen with me. I was one of those persons who slipped through the cracks and was able to kind of figure my way through it. So it really didn't, academics, as you know, I was a B and C student at best. And I wasn't a person who put a lot of energy behind it. And I think that if I was going to say to you where I think the greatest opportunity for education is, it's those persons who mirror me. There's ones who aren't stupid, like we could do it. We just don't really know how. We don't have a lot of motivation. We don't have a lot of guidance. It's not the A students. The A students, the really top-notch students, they're getting opportunities because a lot of universities want, particular minority students to get into their schools. It's the B's and C kids who are like, can I do it? I don't know. Well, it's a little bit of commitment, a little motivation and energy, and you can do it. But it's not an easy thing.
So you go into the end of your senior year, and then what happens that gets you back? You start working a little bit, and you do some things. Rudy talked a little bit about up with people. Go into that post high school up
That's
with
a
people.
great question. So what happened was, and Rudy will remember this, is that we played on the church league basketball, right? Once you get after high school, then you're like, okay, you think you're like this really okay athlete, which is really what I was, just an okay athlete. But then you start playing city league and church league basketball. And Rudy and I played on the same city league basketball teams, and we played with a guy named John Wilder. And John Wilder had a very successful real estate business in Barstow at the time, Century 21 Real Estate. And he said to me when we were playing basketball, he said, have you ever thought about going into real estate? And I'm like, frankly, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. That sounds good. So my sister Elaine, who's on, the foundation board, actually would drive me to San Bernardino, and I would actually take real estate classes.
Wow.
And this is what I was going to do because I had no direction. I didn't know that somebody gave me a great idea. I'm like, yeah, I'll go do that. So I think I maybe took 3 classes. And before I'd even finished any of I think it was like 8 classes, and you used to have to listen to the cassettes and all this stuff. And back in the days, anybody know what a cassette is? And we'd listen to these cassettes on the way down there and such. But then John Wilder, who was the realtor, he also owned the sporting goods store. And so he said, hey, I've let go of my manager. Would you ever consider managing Horizon Sporting Goods Store? I'm like, heck yeah, this real estate is not for me. So I think this is the best job. This is manna from heaven. I'm a high school athlete, and now I'm going to get to manage a sporting goods store. Lo and behold, this is the best I could ever get. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then I met Rudy, and that's kind of sort of where the seed. Even though I knew Rudy because Rudy was a childhood hero for me. He's not that much older, but I mean, he was as star of an athlete as Barstow had ever produced. He went on to play football at Oregon. I mean, for me to get to know him, he was like a model for us because he played sports successfully, all sports in high school. Then transferred to Oregon and played football at Oregon, and then came back to Barstow, and I got to be friends with him. I felt like I'd really hit pay dirt. And so for me, the friendship really originated there, and I still so appreciate your words, Rudy. But right back at you. I feel the same way, and that's where I then met some of the Up With people persons and got to hang out with them and, realized that there was more. Again, Dr. Beck, I mentioned to you about curiosity, like, all of a sudden you meet people from outside of your very small 20,000 person town, and all of a sudden your world starts to open up slightly. And I'm like, what is this up with people thing? First of all, it's a singing and dancing thing. Okay. Can't check either one of those things. I can't sing and I can't dance. So why would I even think that's for me? And so, but it was such an opportunity to see the world, which, as I mentioned, I haven't been on planes, so I didn't know what was outside of going down below, going down to San Bernardino, or to go camping in San Diego. That's what we used to do. And so I felt very fortunate that I had this opportunity through Rudy to meet these people. All of the families started to host because they used to come into town and you'd host, and we all got a really nice immersion into Up With People. And through that, I interviewed and I got accepted. And I think the true power of Barstow, and this is really a great story, John, is the true power of Barstow, which is really what bonds a small or galvanizes a small town, is I found out that I got accepted to go in. And at the time, it cost $4,800 to go, which to us at that time is monumental dollars. Like, how are we ever going to get, pay $4,800 to travel? And three guys from Barstow, Mark Hackbarth and Scott McKenzie, also got accepted into the program. So now we're sitting here going, okay, now we're in, but now we got to pay to go. And I found out exactly 30 days. I think I had to be there on July 5th, and I found out on June 4th that I was accepted. So we had 30 days to do fundraisers, and that's what we did. We washed trucks, we had dances, we waited at restaurants and got a percentage of the bills. Like, you name it, we did everything for 30 days in order to be able to travel. And then going back to the mark of our parents, John, is we made enough for me and Scott to get paid half of the tuition, $2,400 each is what we made over the course of those days. And my mom and dad, who didn't have the money, took a loan out for me to go. So it's pretty amazing.
So being there, though, look, all of that pretty darn amazing how you got there. But what did being in it? Forget the singing and dancing as much as the
believe me, I did.
as the camaraderie and what you learned from those people that were there that really kind of catapulted you into like a different way of thinking.
Yeah, so the persons who traveled Up With People, there was about 500 people, 4 cats across, they travel the world, right? Singing and dancing, and it's basically about building relationships, building communication bridges across the world. But what was most interesting about it is you live and breathe with these people, right? So you're traveling on buses, you're staying with host families in each one of the towns that you visit, and so you're spending a lot of time with people. And what I really learned in a much bigger, more macro way was about mutual respect. And I also learned about my own hometown, because even though you live in a town like Barstow, you know very little about it until somebody starts asking you about it. Mm-hmm. Where is it located? What's the primary employers there? What's the population? Stuff like, and every time you go into a host family, every 3 days, you're with a new host family, and they start to ask you about where you're from. And all of a sudden, this appreciation for what in your mind, you said, I can't wait to get out of here when you're growing up. Believe me, I'm sure that Ingrid is thinking that when you grow up in a town like that is as small as Barstow, you think there's got to be something else out there. But your appreciation for it never really ever goes away. I mean, you love it in a way. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to move back, but your appreciation for it's such a great place to grow up. And I think that by going through Up With People, I got to meet a lot of amazing people who were really high performers. And I traveled when I worked at Horizon Sporting Goods Store for 2 years. So I didn't even travel in Up With People until I was already 20. And so when I traveled, I was traveling with persons who were anywhere between the ages of 18 and 24. So I had probably 30% of the cast were already college graduates. So again, going back to me telling you, I'd never really met any college graduates growing up. Now all of a sudden I'm traveling with about 30% of my cast that are already college graduates. And it doesn't take long for you to start going, hey, if that person could do it, I could do it. And if that person did it, I could do it. And if I'm going to go anywhere, I need to do it. And so all those things start to play into your psyche about what the benefits of going to college, which I didn't really know before.
So how was going to a junior college, and specifically Barstow College, that first real catapult
Yeah.
into college life and or doing the academics before you transfer to San Diego State?
So I would say to you, and this is probably true for Ingrid and other Barstow College students, is a lot of people are kind of using it because as a stepping stone. They don't really know if you can take a few classes, you can decide if you really want to put full on energy into it. I came back extremely motivated because I was already 21 when I finished my year of traveling, which by collegiate standards is 3 years behind the 8 ball, right? Most people are going right out of high school and they're 18 years old. So now I'm 21. So I'm older than everybody else. But I said to myself, I was going to be all in. And I was never going to look back. I was going to do every single thing to immerse myself in a college experience. I wasn't going to go in there and say, hey, this is the way I was at Barstow High School. I was one of those cool kids, and I hung out with all the cool people. And I was going to go to Barstow College and go, I'm going to be a college student, and I'm going to get really deeply involved. And so I played on the tennis team. I wasn't very good. In fact, me and my partner, Louie, we never won a match. But we played on the college team for 2 years. And I was, student body vice president. And I was in Alpha Gamma Sigma, which I don't even know if that still exists, but that was an honor society. And I just was going to be all in for those 2 years because I felt like if I didn't immerse myself in the experience, that I wasn't really going to get what I thought all my friends had already experienced. And so I decided to do that. And because I was in Barstow, I didn't have any debt. I was able to live with mom and dad. And that's one of the things I think is always a big hindrance for anybody who decides they're going to go back to college at a later time is, you have responsibilities, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have rent, you have all those other things. I didn't have anything. I think I had a clock radio and a stuffed animal. So that made it easier.
So you go to Barstow College, you get your associate's degree, you transfer to San Diego State. And I know, look, I wish we had enough time to go through everything, but San Diego State, very successful few years for you. You get out. Why PR? And why did you get into PR? What was it about it that got you there? And then after some 4 or 5 years, what made you think, yeah, I could own a PR firm?
Yeah.
Well, talk through those couple of things.
Start with the first, stupidity, and then I'll go back. So I will tell you that, because I traveled up with people for a year, they have this program, they call it the advanced PR team. And it's the team that goes, like that Rudy was referencing, that goes in advance of the cast coming into a city. And those 2 or 3 persons go in and they do the setup. They help sell tickets. They find sponsors. They find lodging. They do all these things in advance. We called it PR. That's what it was. That was my first immersion into what PR was. Though that's not really what PR is today, but back then that was the word we used. So then when I transferred from Barstow College to San Diego State, I was going to be a PR guy because I did it 3 times while I was traveling for up with people. I got to do it 3 different times, 3 different cities across the US. And so I thought, well, shoot, I could do that. I could talk, it's one thing, good things I can do. And so I said, I'll go into PR. And so it became a very simple thing. Now at San Diego State, our PR program falls under what they call professional studies in fine arts, but it was journalism with an emphasis in PR. And at that time, it's back when Moses was a child, back then, very few schools had PR degrees, and there weren't that many. It was kind of a new emerging industry. And so I decided I was going to get into the PR program, and it was a top 10 PR program in the country by chance. The only reason I went to San Diego State is I have a friend who went there. I didn't even know where I was going, and so I graduated with the degree in PR, and then my last semester you had to do an internship, and then that internship was at a PR agency in San Diego, which was one of the top 3 agencies in San Diego, and I got hired. Right after in fact, I still had 1 class, and I still got hired to work full time. That was 1987. So the thing and one of the things I'll mention about why it's such a value for Barstow Community College for those who are not ready to go to a 4-year university is you can knock out a lot of the general ed classes, because when you go to a 4-year, particularly a state school in California, which I have a tremendous amount of heart for because I graduated from them, they're very hard to get classes. The general ed stuff, the English and the math and all the stuff that's general. Yep. Getting those out of junior college or community college and then transferring in helps you finish in 4 years. In my case, it took me 5 years because I didn't have some of those classes I needed to take. And in addition, and so, it is a really important thing for people to recognize that if you have ambitions, it doesn't always have to be going straight to a 4 year. That's I think the beautiful thing about California junior colleges, they allow you that opportunity. So going on, so I worked in PR for, I was at one agency for a couple of years, and I transferred in-house, which is what they call it when you go corporate side. And I went to a company that built very large upscale health and fitness clubs. And then I wanted to kind of expand my horizons, and I wanted to work in a big market because technically San Diego's not a big market. You either want to go to LA, Chicago, or New York. So I went to LA, and I went to work for what would be considered a large independent. It wasn't owned by any other holding company. And I kind of, for all intents and purposes, this wasn't my title, but I was kind of the general manager. I started running the organization, hiring, running most of the accounts. And that gave me a really good baseline understanding of PR. And if anybody who's worked for somebody, you don't always learn the good stuff about somebody you work for. You learn the bad stuff. And as much as I really enjoyed the person that I worked for, I frankly learned what I didn't want to be and what I didn't want to be as a leader. And that was a big motivation for me to go out and open my own agency. And that was kind of why I did it. I think, and I wanted to move back to San Diego. And the biggest reason is I didn't know any better.
So here it is, trying to kind of wrap this up, and you've had a tremendous amount of success in this firm. Nothing stays around 30 years without a tremendous amount of success and a lot of trial and error. And I know you humbly always say, "Oh, I did things by the seat of my pants," and I know you did, but I can tell you this just from knowing Michael: tenacity is his strength. And we talk often and joke often about when there's an opportunity for business, Michael is like a dog on a bone, and he does not give up. And maybe that's from growing up in a big family. I don't know. The harder you work, the more you get to eat. But so as you look back, just to kind of put a bow on it, Michael, what do you attribute like this unbelievable success to? And it's nothing short of unbelievable. And this 30-year company that, again, a guy from a small town like Barstow runs a PR firm that's one of the 50 biggest in the country, probably 40th by now. How do you kind of put a bow on that and think back as to how you got from Barstow Community College or growing up in Barstow to here?
Yeah, I would say, like, when anybody decides they're going to go out, go do something on their own, you have to be very conservative. And I think I'm creatively conservative in that I'm not going to be a big risk taker, but you have to take risks in order to succeed. And so, when I opened in LA, I hired John to open in LA. That was a risk because now I'm also stretching myself a little bit. When I opened New York, it was a risk. But each one of those are calculated, and you feel confident enough to be able to do those kinds of things. I would say to you that the greatest success that I've had, and I say this to many people when I interview them for us, is that I wasn't the best writer. I wasn't the best strategist. I wasn't the most creative. I wasn't the best publicist. All the things that takes for a person to be really strong at PR, I really wasn't that good at any of those things. But what I am good at is I'm a problem solver. And I think that if you are a problem solver, if your innate sensibility is to be able to identify something, in most cases before it's even happening, you can be incredibly valuable to a client. And I'm a consultant. Like, clients hire us to solve their problems. Now, it's their marketing problems, but that's what they hire us for. And that's one of the things that I would say to you that I'm really quite good at. And I think that helps overcome some of my shortcomings, the rest of them. And I think that the other thing is that I can get people to believe in me and what I'm trying to sell. And I think that if you're going to build an organization, you need people. We're an organization that's based upon people, and you have to believe that you hire people, and you got to allow them to do their job, because you cannot do everybody's job. You have to hire quality people, let them do their quality work, provide guidance, feedback, the kinds of stuff for them to succeed. But the worst scenario in the world is to be a leader that hires everybody and tells them what to do. Like, that's not a successful.
Sure.
formula for success.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to say, one, appreciate it. Hopefully everybody gets to see a little bit about Michael and kind of what drove the success, or what was the foundation for the success, because that is truly what has made Michael. And Rudy spoke about one part of it, the friendships and his long-standing friendships with every friend group he's made probably since elementary school. He still stays in touch with them. But I just wanted to tell you, Michael, our parents, this community meant everything to our parents, unequivocally. And so the fact that you're getting an award from this community college, I think would mean a ton to them. And I know today they're probably sitting with a little bit bigger smile on their face, and probably a little bit more joy in their heart. And so on behalf of all of our family, just say congratulations. We're pretty excited for you. This is pretty neat. And so, sorry, Dr. Bragg, that probably went a little longer than we wanted, but I'll turn it over to you to try to get some of those questions in here now at the end as well.
As you can see, we talk a lot.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you. That was a joy listening to you talk more about your experience. Michael, amazing, such an inspiration. I'm just imagining what the students are thinking, but I'm listening to you, tips for myself. And I also want to thank you for all of the endorsements of our college here in Barstow. We really appreciate that. So at this point, I don't want to take any more time and turn it over. We have two students who are very excited for the opportunity to ask you some questions, Michael, whatever those may be. So I'm going to first introduce Ingrid. You want to introduce yourself and then go ahead and ask your questions.
Hi, Ingrid.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Bag. So I'm Ingrid. I'm currently a studio arts major at Barstow Community College, and I plan to transfer actually to UCLA and study film. So that is my big goal. So I felt a lot of what you said was very inspirational, and there were a lot of things I could connect with you on, especially as far as starting college a bit later in life. I think you said you started at 21, you said? So did I, actually. I was 21 when I started, and I'm 22 right now. It's my first year still. And for a long time, college wasn't really necessarily something I intended on doing. I thought, being in the film industry was something I could do without having to go. And while that is true, there's definitely still important things that can be learned. And so I really related to you on that, having that gap year and feeling older than everyone.
Yep.
So I would like to start by asking, how do you feel Barstow Community College adequately prepared you for your career?
You know what? I think that, like anything else, you live and you learn, right? I think there's part of it is study habits, discipline. Those are the kinds of things I think that every person who is going to school, particularly in a community college where you're probably working as well at the same time, you have to find those units of time to allocate towards studying. And I think that, that's one of the things that I'm extremely focused. I think I sort of got stronger as I went through school in terms of my focus, but John described it as a dog with a bone. That's how I am. I'm very direct. I know that by going through the junior college process and then transferring to San Diego State, I really learned a lot about who I was and what I needed to succeed. And I think that as long as you have a really good, reasonable understanding of what you want to accomplish, or at least a fair idea, and you put some discipline around it, I think that rigor, plays a big part of it. Because if you think about a full-time student is 12 hours. That's 12 hours of the course of a week. Okay, maybe you'd say 15 hours. So you're taking a little heavier load, 15 hours. That seems like a lot. But what happens is it's amazing how much time a person can waste versus being productive. And I think that part of what you try to do is try to find that right kind of discipline that you can. I always say to my son, who's a freshman in college right now, is do what you have to do so that you can do what you want to do. Because if you don't do what you have to do, the likelihood is you're never going to get to what you want to do. So it's a really simple philosophy that's easy for him to understand. Like, easy, easy. Get your homework done Monday through Wednesday. Get your homework. You can have fun on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That kind of stuff.
What were the most positive aspects of your time at BCC?
Yeah, I made one of my best friends today. Rudy knows him really well. Is Louis Martinez, and I said he was not my friend in high school. He was younger than me. He was a whole different friend group. I knew him from church. His family and my family knew each other from church, but he was not my friend. And when I went to Barstow College, he was now, again, 3 years later, he's now a freshman. I'm a freshman. And he became one of my closest friends. And he is today still one of my closest friends. He started a business right around the same time that I started a business. And we talk often about the trials and tribulations of really running a business with, and the people who work with you. So I would say your friendships that you make, I think that, I've always been a believer that, it's a community. It takes a village. That whole idea behind, to help you grow. If you're always going to try to do it on your own, life is pretty lonely. And so I believe that you want to have a lot of friends, and you nurture those friends. If you water those friends, they grow. And I believe that's why, John says I stay in touch with all these different groups over the course of my life. It's because I put a lot of work into that. I want to, because they're important to me. Not, they may think it's important to them. It's important to me because that helps me be, my best self. And that's what I think is what I gained at Barstow College. I have made a lot of friends there, and I'm still friends with them. And I think that's important.
I completely agree. What do you know now that you wish you would have known during your time as a college student?
Yeah. I think that I lacked a little bit of academic confidence. Like, I didn't know if I was smart. Like, I really didn't. I got through my high school experience with personality and BS. Like, that's how I did it. And I honestly had no idea if I could handle the rigor of an academic institution. And I'd say to you is that any person who decides they want to go back to school or start in college, they should, invest in themselves and realize that they can do it. School's not hard. You have to put the time and energy behind it, but it's not hard. It takes a little bit of discipline, but it's not hard. And I would say, from my perspective, if I could say to myself, I'd say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you can do that, it's okay.
What advice do you have for current students with big aspirations?
Oh man, I say reach for the stars. Like, the worst thing is, somebody told me this recently. This has been a new cliche for me, and I'm full of cliches, but this is my newest one, is if you're not winning, you better be learning. And so I believe that you should try to do lots of stuff. And if you fail, it's okay. You learned something for it. But what did you gain from it so you don't fail again? And that's what I think, somebody says, if you're not failing, you're not trying, those kinds of things. I believe that you absolutely have to push your best foot forward in order to succeed. If you always stay in that comfort zone, it's really hard. Because here's what's will happen. This is a classic Barstow thing. To mija or mijo, you do not need to go. You can come back and live at home. You know what? What mom and dad should say is go, try it, keep pushing to do that. Yes, you can always come back, but if you don't have the support to go out and push yourself, it's a lot harder to do that. And I think that, even though I know John will agree with this, every time we come back home from college, my mom would be in tears. She'd be standing at the driveway waving us goodbye. But she never said come home. She said go keep doing it, because she was living the same dream that we were living. And that's what I think is a really important thing that you sometimes forget about. It's super easy to get comfortable and stay doing what you've always done. Get what you always got. That's what's a really important thing to avoid.
As a student with some pretty big aspirations, I thank you so much. And that is all I have. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Hey, best of luck. I'll be cheering for you.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Ingrid, thank you so much. And now, Michael, we have also Amanda has some more questions for you. Amanda.
Great.
Hello, Michael, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I'm humbled.
So although I am not a student, these were submitted by a student who had some questions for you regarding some of your international experience that you have gained over the years.
Yep.
And although your company may not be international, what is the true value of being part of a company that does have global offerings as a student is interested in international studies?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you have an open mind, you learn from people. You learn, and I think the more accepting you are, particularly this day and age, the greater you will be as a person. It'll make you a much more well-rounded person. I think from a business perspective, having international experience is fantastic. I unfortunately, though I did travel internationally when I was with people, and though my company is only U.S. domestic, were acquired in 2014 by a global company out of France, and so I've had a lot of experience working with international persons. In addition to that, my daughter, who is just graduated from Clemson, is working for my company, which again, the bigger macro company in Spain. In fact, she just her last day for the spring semester. It was yesterday, so she's living in Spain and working in Spain. And I think that's an incredible experience. If you get the chance to do it, and in most universities do have that as an option, which is one of the best things you could possibly do. I think that we gain a lot because what the perspective of business is, if you succeed in the U.S., you can win the world, because we are the largest population. It's where most innovation originates here. It's where all of the bigger companies are headquartered here. So if you can succeed in the US, you can succeed everywhere. And I think it's a really good thing for somebody to have those kind of aspirations.
We answered another question that they had submitted about working and studying abroad. So you kind of got that in. But
Yeah.
another question that had come in, and we do hear this often, is that what some people think that you don't need a college degree to get a high-paying job, that you can just maybe luck. So what would you say, based on you have a vast amount of experience in and out, in response to maybe college students or young adults struggling and not thinking that they need to be in college, or that college is for them?
Yeah, I'd say to you, there's two ways to look at that. I would say, do you need a college degree to be successful in life? No, you don't. However, if you want to succeed professionally, it is very difficult to not have a college degree. And it's pretty much being prevalent across the world. There are levels. In fact, John, you and I have talked about a friend of yours who never quite finished college. He climbed to the highest level of the company he could climb, but he didn't have a college degree, so he couldn't climb that next ladder to be able to get there. So it's kind of the price of entry. You need it. However, I will say to you, is there a tremendous amount of pride in being a plumber, being an electrician, doing all those kinds of jobs, which are incredibly valuable and hard to find in your local community? Absolutely. But that still means you got to get educated. You still have to go to trade school. You still have to do something. You just can't walk out tomorrow and say, I'm going to make a lot of money because I know how to do nothing. You have to, there's got to be some ambition, and there's got to be some focus, and there's got to be some educational support.
No, thank you. I mean, I think that's a very good tip just for life, really. So, but those are the questions that we had that were submitted by some of our students here at Barstow Community College.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And, I'm happy to be here. And Dr. Bagg, I mean, I'm honored. I'm humbled at this. I don't know that I deserve it. I feel like I gained so much more from Barstow College and my experience there. And I feel like, winning or being awarded this award is just an amazing thing. And just in just great appreciation, I just would love to tell you that I would love to donate $100,000 to the university. And I would love to donate that money in the name of my parents, John's parents, Gillian V. Olgie. And it's meant a lot to me.
Oh my goodness. I'm in a little bit of shock here. I mean, I heard you were a generous person, but wow, that is so amazing, Michael.
I feel strongly about the college. I believe it, is my foundation. I was not really ready for college, and it gave me something that I didn't have. And hopefully that can help some others.
Oh my goodness. Undoubtedly it will. I'm sure the foundation will do a wonderful job in facilitating getting that into students' hands to help them. Really, just thank you so very much. Wow. Well, I just really, that tops it with your generosity, but with your time, sharing your experiences, your tips for students and all of us. And I think really making all of Barstow proud. And I'm sure your parents are extremely proud and your whole family. And I wish you were here so that we could now just have that big party that we wanted to have, but we'll definitely get this sent to you. And gosh, just thank you so much. And please, next time you come home for a visit, be sure to stop by your alma mater here at Barstow Community College, and we would love to honor you in person again.
Awesome.
When you're
Well, thank you
actually
very
here.
much. I really appreciate the time, and thank you so much for awarding me this. And I'm very proud. Couldn't say it enough.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much. And
Excellent.
thank you everyone for joining us here
Thank you,
today.
Rudy. All right.
Yeah, Mike.
So that concludes our exceptional alumni celebration. And I just want to, again, on behalf of the Barstow College Foundation and Barstow Community College students, thank you so much to Mr. Michael Ogeen. We're so appreciative. And again, congratulations on being the first Exceptional Alumni Award winner for Barstow College Foundation. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.